Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the college football edition. We're going to look at the Super 7 games that we've picked for this week that are of importance, at least to us. We hope you find the same as well. We're also going to look at some of the local games. But before we look at week number 9, by the way, I want to mention our host, Vincent Turner, and our producer-engineer, Logan Landers, who's with us today. I'm very interested. Before we go to week 9, Vincent, I'd like your impressions. Did anything happen last week in week 8 that might be noteworthy?
Harper and Logan, of course it did. I told everyone that the best team in the country, even after the Alabama game, was the University of Georgia.
Was that you that said that? Was that you?
I think it was. Did I not? Yes, I said hands down. I said, regardless of the Alabama loss, and I'm going to look in the screen. I told y'all on the college football landscape, nothing changes in Athens. They still had the best team in the country. Now, what really amazed me last week leading up to the game on Saturday, don't you know every pundit picked Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. From ESPN to CBS, even some local people here in Atlanta picked Texas. Now, I don't want to get excited today. I don't want to upset nobody. But Texas is not ready for the SEC. And this is for you, Jay. This is for you, Jay. All I got to say is Georgia's defense, 259 yards allowed. 29 yards rushing, 4 turnovers, and 7 sacks. Where I come from, the 9-on-1, that's domination. Ass whooping.
Oh, man.
Get the belt out. Back to you, Mr. Harper.
No, Logan, what do you think?
Hey.
Were you by yourself? Did you have a couple of friends over? How did you watch the game, and what was important to you?
I was just hanging out at the house, just watching it by myself. And if you would have told me, and also I'm going to kind of flip the script in a sense, that if you would have told me that Carson Beck would have thrown 3 interceptions and only passed for 175 yards with no touchdowns, and that Georgia would have won this game and dominated it in the first half, I would have said you're crazy. But like Vincent said, what's the old adage here, guys, of battles are won and lost in the trenches? And we saw this past Saturday, that was clear as day. Texas could not get any momentum at all, whether it be in the running game. As you said, Vincent, 27 rushes for 29 yards as a team. That's a solid 1.1 average there, ladies and gentlemen. Quinn Ewers, God bless him, he had no time to breathe. Every time he got the ball, there was a Georgia defender swarming him for 7 sacks against the former now number 1 ranked team in the country. And you give up 7 sacks. Overall, I thought Georgia, they came out hot. That's what people were expecting. If they wanted to win that game, they had to come out the gates flying. That's exactly what they did. They scored 7 points in the first quarter, 16 in the second. And then we saw in the third and fourth quarter, Texas battled back a little bit, but by then it was too late in Georgia. And most importantly, Trevor Etienne had a huge day, 19 carries, 87 yards, and hit pay dirt 3 times. Georgia played a phenomenal football game all around. And Texas, welcome to the SEC.
Well, I'm not sure if their season is over because of it, but it certainly was an interesting game. My perspective is if you've got enough water bottles, you can change anything. Throw a bunch of your water bottles on and you can have a call change. Kirby went ballistic after that happened. I thought that was pretty interesting. But in a football sense, you can have size, you can have power, you can have speed. If you've got all 3 and the others only have 2 or maybe only 1, that can be a real difference maker. So congratulations to the University of Georgia. They upset and beat in Austin, the University of Texas, and they are no longer undefeated. The Longhorns have 1 loss now. Let's look at some of the local action here for week 9. We like to do that every week and pay tribute and give thanks out to the teams that are in our area. Let's start with Liberty, coming from just up north a little bit there in Virginia, going to Kennesaw State. Now, Liberty is 5-0. Kennesaw State is 0-5. That game will be at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. That's tonight. That's the game that'll be played here Wednesday as we're recording this later this evening. On Thursday, Georgia Southern travels to Virginia. They'll be at Old Dominion. Old Dominion is 3-4 right now. They're kind of an up and down team. They play really well one week, and they've had some close but tough losses. They're 3-4. That game will be Thursday on ESPN2. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. On Saturday, Georgia State travels to Boone, North Carolina. They'll be taking on Appalachian State. Both teams are 2-4. That game will be at 1 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN Plus. Southern Utah and their 3-4 record goes to West Georgia, and West Georgia right now is 2-5. The Wolves are. That's a 2 o'clock game on ESPN Plus, and then Western Carolina will be at Mercer. Mercer's 6-1. That game's at 3 o'clock, 3:30 on ESPN Plus. Real excited about the Mercer program right now. The Bears are playing very well. 2 bye weeks this week will be the University of Georgia. They always take a bye week before they play Florida. And the Valdosta State Blazers, they will be a bye week this week. They get the week off, and they'll return to action next week. Vincent, your thoughts on the locals?
Right quick, you got Liberty, coached by Jamie Treadwell. They won 17 straight games. This is a school that's probably got a chance to make the college football playoffs. It's the only Power 5 school. Other than that, Georgia Tech let me down again. As you know, last week, I thought they had a chance against Notre Dame, but I can tell you what, Haynes King, you need to get healthy, man, under center. And finally, Harper, I'm going to take it to you, man, because you're part of the Georgia State Football Network. Damn again lost 3 in a row, my brother. He needs to right the ship. Back to you, sir.
Yep, after a surprising win against Vanderbilt. And by the way, the Commodores are in the top 25 this week. We won't be talking about them specifically, but they're coming up. They're coming up. Watch out for them. New stadium, new vibe at Vanderbilt University. All right, let's look at our Super 7, the games this week that we think will have some prominence, at least in our eyes, and we hope you would agree with us. First, we're going to take a look on Friday evening, 10:30 Eastern time on CBS Sports Network. The number 17 Boise State Broncos and their 5-1 record go to what to me is a surprising UNLV. They'll be playing that game in Las Vegas. 6-1 are the Rebels. Vincent, your thoughts on this one?
Boise State, a lot of people saying they got the best running back in the country, Aston Jette. I'm hearing words. He's in the memories of Emmitt Smith, Dorsett, Sanders, all tied in one. Even some people saying out there in Boise, you need to get some Heisman votes. And you're right, Harper. You got to give credit to ULV. They're 6-1 on the year. I'm happy for coordinator Barry Olden, who's at the University of Missouri. They got a big-time receiver in Ricky White. I'm looking forward to this football game on Friday night.
There's some interesting parallels that we're going to look at. One is the height factor. Okay, we're going to look at Maddox Madison, who's the quarterback at Boise State. He stands at 5'10". He's 203 pounds. He's got 12 touchdowns right now, only 2 interceptions. Ashton Jette, he's 5'9". So the two of them together are two of the shortest tandem that you're going to see. If they win the conference and they get into the playoff, and they're going to be invited back to the campus for the next 100 years, right? The two of these little guys standing right next to each other, but they're doing some big things there. Jette, he's averaging 9.9. I'm going to say it one more time, 9.9 yards per carry. He's got 17 touchdowns right now. We're halfway through the season, and he already has over 1,200 yards. Think about that with another 6 games to go and at least a championship game. And if they get into the tournament and they get a chance to play, he might break 2,500 yards. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do this year. They're rushing at Boise State. They're number 2 in the country, but don't take your eyes off UNLV. This isn't going to be one of those blowout games. They're number 5 in the country. They average 251 yards per game on the ground. They score 43 points a game, and their defense isn't so bad. They only give up about 22 points a game. They're ranked in the top 50, 56, somewhere in that area. Malik Williams is their quarterback. Watch out for him. He's a passing threat. He's got 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he also averages 6.4 yards per carry, and that includes sacks. This guy can run the ball as well. Ricky White is a Marietta guy, 46 receptions for him. He has 9 touchdowns for the Rebels. Our next game, we're going to go to Saturday. We're going to start with a noon kickoff at MetLife Stadium. We're not going to Annapolis for this one. Number 12 Notre Dame with their 6-1 record. They go to Navy, and the number 24 ranked team in the country. When's the last time we talked about Notre Dame and Navy? With between the two of them, they only have one loss.
MetLife Stadium gonna be on fire.
On football, how about them Cadets?
Navy. I love their quarterback, Blake Hovan. When I think about Navy, can you believe Navy is 24th in the country undefeated? And they've been impressive. All I can say, I just brought his name up, Blake Hovan. Roger Staubach is coming back through that door. Notre Dame.
Throw Napoleon in there.
That's right. And Notre Dame, I said it before the season started, Marcus Freeman, it's no cut case. You got to make the playoffs, baby. You 6-1. You had a very impressive win over Texas A&M. Then you come back 2 weeks later. You lose to Northern Illinois, but you've been on a ride right now. And I'm going to tell you what, Notre Dame was impressive last week in Atlanta by the way he took care of Georgia Tech. Riley Leonard, we know he's a special football player in the center. All he got to do is stay healthy. And maybe Notre Dame will get back to the status of playing the college football playoffs. And you know, on Touchdown Jesus campus, they all talk about national championships. That's the bottom line. That's going to be a hell of a football game, Harper.
Well, Notre Dame has remaining on their schedule Florida State, Virginia, Army, and they go to Southern California to play USC. They have a chance to run the table, but they got to get through Navy first. They're the number 17 team rushing in the country. They're number 5 on defense. They only give 11 points per game. And by the way, let me make a correction. I called them the cadets. When you're in a military institute, you are a cadet, but they are the midshipmen. Obviously, Navy is the midshipmen. So allow me to make a simple mistake right there. Keep your cards and letters. You don't need to send them now. I've already made the mistake. They're not correct. So we're good to go. Blake Horvath, you're right. What an impressive year. 63% completion percentage. That's probably something that even Roger Staubach was incapable of doing. Back in those days, you're lucky to get anything above 50%. He only has 888 yards, which is less than half of what the average college quarterback has at this time of the year. But 10 touchdowns, only 1 interception. And he's the leading rusher. 7.9 yards per carry. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. And that includes the sacks. Anthony Texa, if I'm saying that correct, he averages 6.2 yards per carry. Brandon Chapman is 5.5. Eli Heidenreich, he's 8.1 per carry. They are rushing for 274 yards per game. They're number 4 in the country. This should be a very quick game because both teams run the ball incredibly well. But Navy at 6-0 is getting a top billing here. Army also is undefeated. So it'll be interesting to see how in that American Athletic Conference this turns out. Army and Navy could play each other in a championship game before Army and Navy play each other in a December 12th matchup. I think that's when that's coming up. Next on the list, we're going to look at the number 1 team in the country. They're new. You've heard about them before, but this is a new billing for them right now. And speaking of Bill, we're going to talk about the Ducks of the University of Oregon at Autzen Stadium. They get to host number 20, Illinois.
Quiet. The Ducks have got it going on out there, man. Dan Lanning, to be number 1 in the impressive win over Ohio State, I got to give the Duck Nation credit. Days of Chris Miller coming back. Joey Harrington, former teammate, right? Chris Miller,
Yep.
Mr. LeBel, Bill Musgrove. But I tell you what's been special. Think about this real quick, Harper. Oklahoma decided to run this young man off and go with a guy named Jackson Arnold. Look where Oklahoma's at right now.
Yep.
And Dylan Gabriel, I call him Hawaii 5-0 because he's from the great state of Hawaii. Oregon is number 1 in the country, baby. And make no mistake, they deserve to be there. Now, Illinois, Stockville, Mississippi in the house. Luke Ottmeyer. I'm excited for head coach Brent Beamer, man. Illinois, very impressive last week over Michigan, 21-7, ranked 20th in the country. We wouldn't even thought about Illinois even being in the breath of being a mainstay in the Big Ten right now. And all I can think about is Bobby Mitchell, J.C. Caroline, Tony Eason, the Galvin Ghost, Red Grange. Back to you, Harper.
Well, don't forget Dick Butkus if you're going to talk about some of the
Right.
great Illinois.
You're right. That's correct.
Hey, Pat Bryant, 31 receptions, 484 yards. He has 7 touchdowns right now, but he's averaging 15.6 yards per reception right now. So you mentioned Luke Altmaier. He's getting it to his guys. In terms of their rankings, their passing is 78th in the country. Their running is 81st in the country. Their scoring is they're averaging 29 points a game. That's in the mid 60s. Their defense is the one difference maker. They're giving up 18 points a game. That's in the top 20. I think it's a collective effort by these guys. I really do. No one piece is better than the others in terms of their overall significance, but together he's got them playing with heart, with guts. They're playing tough, and they're playing for each other. In Illinois at 6-1 right now, they're number 20 in the country. You mentioned Dylan Gabriel from Mililani, Hawaii. I said that probably wrong. I'm sorry, but here's why I want to mention him. His quarterback rating right now at 84 is 8th in the country. He's not the biggest guy you're ever going to see, but he can sling it. He can get out to the guys, especially to Jordan James, Tez Johnson, who we're going to have to do a special on him. We've already done a draft special on Evan Stewart. He has 3 touchdowns right now. Tez has 7. Dylan's getting the ball around and doing a great job with that. So Oregon at 7-0 will be hosting the game against 6-1 Illinois in a Big Ten matchup. Our next game is going to be BYU, number 11 in the country. This is the first time we've talked about BYU. They're going to Central Florida. They're going to be at FBC Mortgage Stadium. 7-0 BYU against the 3-4 UCF Knights. And Vincent, this may look on paper like it's just going to be a matchup that BYU should take it away, but UCF is a pretty good football team.
A little bit. They're 3-4 on the year. Gus Malzahn has done a good job over the last 2 years, but I'm kind of a little bit, I'm going to tell you the truth, Harper, I'm kind of a little bit disappointed in them a little bit this year because I thought they'd be better than 3-4, simply because they brought my man KJ Jefferson from the transfer portal from the University of Arkansas, and he's been benched. But they're a team that's got a very good big-time player in I.J. Harvey. But what I want to see in this game is BYU for real. They ranked 11th in the country. They're 7-0. They average 34 points a game. They remind me a lot of them old BYU schools that you played against. And, of course, Robbie Bosco, Mark Wilson, Steve Young, and your man, Jim McMahon. I want to see what BYU is really at. They, as I just mentioned, they got a real high-scoring offense, 34 points a game. Going to be really looking at BYU's for real when we talk about this college football playoff, 12-team playoff.
Yeah, we'll see what they do. Jake Ratzlaff, their quarterback, 16 touchdowns so far this year, 7 interceptions. He's averaging just under 60 in his quarterback completion percentage. He also rushes for 5.4 per carry. He's a leading rusher on the team right there. L.J. Martin averages 5.2 per carry. Hinckley Ropati, he's 5.6. They're not leading the nation in anything, really. They're 56 in passing. They're 73rd in rushing. They're 29th in scoring. They're 26th in defense, points given up. How are they 11-1? Just like we mentioned earlier, they play together. They're playing with a lot of heart. They're fired up about one another, and they're getting the job done. That's just plain and simple. Did you know that UCF has the number 3 rushing totals in the country right now? 280 yards per game. R.J. Harvey, with 133 rushes so far, has 890 yards, 11 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.7 yards every time he touches the ball. BYU's defense is going to have to stop him. And if K.J. Jefferson does get a chance to play again and throw, he's thrown for a little over 1,000 yards. He has 7 touchdowns on the season right now. But they are not an easy win right now. They have a couple of losses by less than a score. So UCF might want to pull an upset up at home here this Saturday afternoon. Our next game, we're going to go to Bryant-Denny Stadium. No unfamiliar territory to anybody with college football, but an unfamiliar territory right now for Alabama is that they're 5-2. They've moved out of the top 10. They're number 15 in the country right now. Bryant-Denny will be hosting the University of Missouri. And the Tigers are 6-1 right now. They're ranked number 21 in the country. Vincent, this should be a great game.
Must win.
Both
the
sides.
loser is going to be eliminated. When we talk about the 12-team college playoffs, I'm going to start with the University of Alabama. I want to thank 100.9 over there in Tuscaloosa because y'all made me live this week. I'm 64 years old, but boy, listen to y'all, how y'all really went the other way. Went after the Georgia game. Y'all were talking about national championships. Y'all talking about maybe this the best team that's ever came through Tuscaloosa. Y'all talking about Caleb DeBoer is going to replace Nick Saban, maybe win 4 or 5 in a row. Boy, times have changed, haven't they? This is a really must-win football game for Alabama. And I hate to say this, somebody sent me something by text yesterday, Mr. Harper LeBel. And
What is it?
it was an article out of Tuscaloosa. You know what the article was about? What would be the buyout for Caleb DeBoer as the head coach at Alabama?
Wow.
What would be the buyout for Caleb DeBoer? All I'm going to say is this. Alabama has lost to 2 real good football teams this year, Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Jalen Milroe is the key to their season. They was even talking about this past week, maybe benching Jalen Milroe. I'm going to say it right here to you, Roll Tide Nation. I'm going to look in the camera. You bench Jalen Milroe, the season is going to come unraveled. Okay, Missouri. Missouri hasn't really played very well this year. They lost 1 game. I judged them what they did against Texas A&M, and Texas A&M took them to the woodshed. But they got a quality football player in Brady Cook. And I like their team overall. I think Missouri has not played well in any game this year. As I just said, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Harper LeBel. It's a must-win game. Actually, it's an elimination game, if you ask me today, here on 100 Yards of Football. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, you lose this game on either side, it's pretty much over. Your chance of getting into the SEC championship is diminished greatly. Missouri is number 50 in passing. They're number 53 in rushing. They're number 50 in scoring. They're number 10 in defense. I would not have thought prior to looking at these stats that Missouri was doing that well defensively. They're only giving up 15 points a ball game. Alabama scoring 38. They're in the top 20 in that, but everything else, they're a little bit outside what the norm would be for what you would expect with Jalen Milroe, with Jam Miller. You got young Ryan Williams, 13, 5, and 7 touchdowns respectively. If you look at the schedule that Alabama has remaining, they got LSU next, they got Mercer, then Oklahoma, and then their final game every year is against Auburn. Those are winnable games. LSU be a challenge, but I'm going to tell you right now, they have to win this one first. So before they do anything else, Alabama at 5-2 better get to 6-2, or else we're gonna start figuring out how much money can people raise to get that buyout taken care of. I don't think you fire the coach after 7 weeks. I just don't think that you do that. But you know what? There are people that can say whatever they want on the radio, on television, over a podcast, just like us. But let's be serious here. Let's not do that. All right, one more game that we want to look at. Last week they came off a loss at home against the University of Georgia, but the 6-1 number 5 team in the country, the Texas Longhorns, will be traveling to Tennessee, your home state, Vincent. They'll be close by. They'll be taking on number 25. I said it, number 25, the Vanderbilt Commodores at 5-2.
I'm really happy for the Vanderbilt program. Today, I want to give kudos to Raymond Buggs, who was our SEC wide receiver in 1981, came out of high school out of Memphis, Tennessee, was the player of the year, football, basketball, and baseball. Man, I'm happy for the Commodores. To you, Mr. Preston Brown. To you, Mr. Whit Taylor. To you, Mr. Jamie Duncan. To you, Mr. Leonard Coleman. To you, Mr. Watson Brown. Can you believe the Vanderbilt Commodores are ranked 25th in the country? Clark Lee, if I had to say coach of the year right now, I have to say I have to put you on the top of the list. People don't understand this. They're beating Kentucky and Alabama this year. Let that resonate in your head. They have beaten Kentucky and Alabama this year. And I'm going to tell you this. If I was Texas, don't expect to come up there and think that Vanderbilt is going to lay down. They showed you that against Alabama a couple of weeks ago. Now to the Texas Longhorns. I still like the Texas program. There's no question about it. But I'm going to tell you what. Y'all was on that disrespectful vibe last week against the University of Georgia. And the whole nation was. And I said here on 100 Yards of Football, Georgia is still the best team in the country. You saw what happened. It's going to be very interesting to see if the Longhorns bounce back. They always say good teams, they let that last game, they let that go in the memory bank. I really want to see what Texas is going to be about when they step into 615 up there in Nashville, Tennessee. And the one stat I want to know is this. Like Logan Landers said early in the podcast that we started today, how good Texas is going to be on the line of scrimmage offensively. And really sticking in my mind that your offense only gained 29 yards rushing against Georgia. Your offense only gained 259 yards total. You had 4 turnovers, but this is a talent stat. Your offensive line gave up 7 sacks. So all this hook 'em horn, all this burnt orange, all this, you got the greatest school in the country and you got the most money. And Matthew McCalley, please stay off the screen because Texas hasn't won nothing. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, they've got some things to figure out. And Quinn Ewers, whether he's hurt, whether he's 100%, he's got 11 touchdowns right now, but they got Arch Manning breathing right down his throat. But I don't know how you're going to solve that problem unless you either play them both, you work that in, and just have a strategy to utilize each one of them and their talents. But neither one of them were able to do it. Arch has 9 touchdowns on the year. He played well against Georgia, but whether it be Quintrevion Wisner, whether it be Isaiah Bond, somehow or another, they're going to have to gel a little bit differently than what they did against the Bulldogs. I think they were outpowered, and the speed factor was a real issue. I don't think they were expecting Georgia to be as fast as they were. You don't have to worry about that same type of speed from Vanderbilt, but they saw that film, and they're going to try to figure out ways to put pressure on the quarterback. Texas at 295 yards per game in the air is 16th in the country. They don't run it as well. They're 58th in terms of that, but scoring, average 39 points. They're 19th in the country with that, but the biggest thing is their defense. They only give up 9 points a game, and that still is number 1, and that's why they are where they are right now. Even though they lost, they're going to be a top 10 team. They are. They're just very good. Let's look at Diego Pravia. That dude right there, he is a baller, and he's your quarterback at Vanderbilt. He's a transfer along with the coach that came, both of them together, from New Mexico State. But Pravia is something different now. He is his quarterback rating is 79 right now, which ranks him 16th in the country. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. This kid just refuses to be told he can't do anything. And he's worth watching. He's a fun college quarterback to watch. You can hate him all you want to, but he's taking a team that had no relevance at all, and they're in the top 25 because of it. He's also their leading rusher, by the way, 3.9, and that includes all the sacks. He has 3 touchdowns on the ground. Very interesting game when Texas goes to Vanderbilt. Our last game that we're going to look at today is number 8 LSU is going to be taking on number 14 Texas A&M. That will be at Kyle Field. There'll be 100,000 people inside, and if LSU travels like I think they will, there'll be about 200,000 or 300,000 people on the outside, just for folks to say that they were at the game. But your thoughts about the 6-1 LSU Tigers going against the 6-1 Texas A&M Aggies?
I'm gonna say this: these are 2 really good football teams, man, that can really earn a spot in the college football playoffs, even challenge for a national championship. I like both of these teams. I'm going to start with LSU. LSU. I want to give kudos today to a gentleman who's an NFL draft writer, Mr. William Yanish, coming out of Colorado today. I know he's going to be shocked. Before the season started, we had all these great quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people was talking about him, but he told me, he said, Vincent, I'm telling you, Garrett Nussmeier is the best quarterback in the nation. And I'm saying to myself on the phone, is he crazy? And this guy got all these expectations of replacing the Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. But William told me this. He said, I guarantee you when the season's all over, people are going to be talking about that young man's name. And I should not be surprised because his father, Doug, is the quarterback's coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nussmeier has been on fire. LSU is now starting to play defense. Brian Kelly, a lot of people didn't like him getting the head job at LSU. I know why he left Notre Dame. This is a very dangerous football team. Go back and put on the film what they did against Arkansas last week. 34-10. That was impressive. Now over to Texas A&M. another Coach of the Year candidate. Can we give some love for Mike Elko? New Jersey in the house. He took the same players that Jimbo Fisher had, Harper, and they are 14th in the country without outstanding quarterback play because Connor Wetman hasn't played well. But look what he's done with that Aggie land. The 12th man is standing up, baby. John David Crow, the Junction Boys. Back to you, Harper.
You threw me with the Junction Boys. By the way, we talk about Jay Cutler at Vanderbilt as being, and I know Jay's going through something right now, and he needs a friend. I'll tell you, that's he needs a friend. Connor Wegman, you mentioned him. He's not the biggest guy you're ever going to see. He's only a sophomore, but he completed 61% of his passes so far this year. He's got 718 yards, which is only a third of what Nussmeier's got. He's got 3 touchdowns, 4 picks, but they can run the football. They average 218 yards a game. They're in the top 12 in the nation, whether it be Le'Veon Moss, 6.4 yards per carry for him. He has 8 touchdowns on the ground. Amari Daniels, 292 yards for that young man. He has 5 touchdowns that he's gained on the ground. Reuben Owens, number 2, 385 yards. He has 3 touchdowns right now. So they average 12th in the nation right now, 31 points per game. That's 51st. That's whatever, but their defense is also playing well. They only give up 17 points a ball game. Their wide receivers have 9 touchdowns, and they average 13.2 yards per carry. What are they going to do against LSU? They're probably going to blitz Nussmeier because that man is on fire right now. His quarterback rating is 82.7. He's number 11 in the nation right now. He's got 2,222 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's amazing. And right now, you've seen the Jaden Daniels. You've seen the Joe Burrow. Is this the next edition of that? We'll find out with the remaining games that they have against Alabama, at Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. 4 tough games. They get through all of those undefeated, and they should be in the playoff, no doubt. And we'll get to see more of Nussmeier and his 18 touchdowns a little bit later on. But for right now, that's going to be really the highlight game of the week, where you have 2 teams, one in the top 8 and the other at 14. It should be a great weekend of football. Your final thoughts here, Vincent, before we head out.
My final thoughts today, Mr. Harper LeBel, elimination. Elimination. We get into the week of the schedules now that we're going to see the real football team stand up. The history going to come back in the game. And the programs like Alabama, Missouri, Texas, LSU, Texas A&M, I want to see where y'all at. And, of course, the University of Tennessee. And I'll be honest with you, there's one game I'm looking at, Illinois at Oregon. If Illinois goes in there and pulls up an upset, we might need to start talking about Champaign, Illinois a little bit better than we've been talking about Illinois football over the last few years. And you know a gentleman that's really close when I think about Illinois being ranked number 20th in the country, I think about your former teammate, Mike Ken. For some reason, I don't know, but right now, I'm liking Illinois as a football team. I like what Brent Beamer has done. And to me, college football is at a high level now. What more can we say? Can we say that Navy ranked 24th in the country? What will happen if Navy beats Notre Dame? They're going to tear down MetLife Stadium. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, have to pay for it and build it back up again. But the Navy and Army, both undefeated at this point in the season, hasn't happened since the 1940s. Very interesting. You mentioned Notre Dame. LSU is a great team. How will Texas rebound? Is Oregon going to stay at number 1? A lot of great things going to be happening this week. And we hope you enjoy it as much as we've enjoyed talking about it. It should be a fantastic weekend. There's plenty of games that are of value that we didn't even get a chance to talk about today. But that's been our look at our Super 7 here on the College Football Show at 100 Yards of Football. For our producer, Logan Landers, and our host, Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LeBel. We hope you have a fantastic day.